to be talking about the fentanyl crisis in the United States. I'm also going to be digging into some media bias, and it's involving Donald Trump, actually. A couple years ago, the media accused Donald Trump of lying about a bunch of stuff, and it turned out he wasn't lying, actually. It was really true. I'm going to be digging into that. We're also going to be having a look at what the media is doing wrong. They're doing a lot wrong nowadays, and some good news we're going to bring you as well. But first, we're going to talk about the fentanyl crisis in the United States. Diane joins us. Hello. Say hi to everyone.
Hi.
Hello. I met Diane on Facebook. It was Sunday, I think, and I said, "Are you excited to watch the Super Bowl?" She said, "Hell no." I don't know if you said hell no, but you said no. And that's how I came across and found you. But why weren't you excited about the Super Bowl?
Because my grandchildren just lost their father due to fentanyl poisoning.
And was this just recently?
Yes, it was. It was February 4th.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to put a picture of him up on the screen that you sent me. Tell me a little bit about him. His name, is he from your town, and what he was like? Give me a little info about him. Looks like a nice young man.
Okay, Adam was 31 years old, and he had met my daughter when they were in high school at age 15. And, you know, they ended up having a child together, but they stayed together, and they ended up having 2 more little boys. He was an outdoors person, loved hunting, fishing, always smiling, loved his boys. The boys were the love of his life.
Wow. So he leaves behind, he has 2 little ones.
He has 3 little ones.
3 little ones. How old are they again?
He has a 13-year-old son, Elijah.
Okay.
He has a 10-year-old son, Emmanuel, and he has an 8-year-old son, Isaac.
Okay, wow. And we were talking earlier, but leading up to this, did you say he was in an accident, or say that what was the deal, that he needed medical care for something?
He had sustained a broken jaw, and he was wired, and he was in pain. He was due for surgery, but it hadn't come up yet. And he was in pain, so he went to the ER. And what the ER doctors prescribed him in the ER was just basically Tylenol. The pain was so bad, Tylenol wasn't doing anything with that pain. So Adam went out to seek a stronger medication.
Okay, and that's when, oh, sorry, go ahead. He was looking for something, just something stronger.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's when he ended up seeking out that pill that was stronger, and it ended up being laced with fentanyl.
What do they even know? What you said? Maybe he was trying Percocet or something. He obviously, the family.
Maybe he was trying to get like a Percocet or something stronger for the pain, some stronger pain medication.
Okay, but the family, you and the family believe in no way was he going for fentanyl.
No, absolutely not. No, he was supposed to start a new job the next day. He was supposed to have breakfast with his son the next day. And his 13-year-old son went down to go have breakfast with Dad, and he was met at the door by his other grandfather, who had to tell the little boy, "You can't go in the house right now," and had to explain to him at that point his father was deceased.
And all it took was him with that one interaction with fentanyl that did it.
That one pill. He must have taken it that night. And this all happened with probably like a 15-minute span. Going on a bike to go get it, coming back, sitting on the bed, taking it and laying down so he can go get some rest for his job the next day.
I mean, that's horrible. And a lot of people, when they think, oh, you died of fentanyl, you're just a drug addict or something. But he was, your family, and you were saying he was just trying to ease that pain. And in no way did he want fentanyl, most likely.
Absolutely not.
Wow. had he in the past, and you don't have to answer, but had he had a major drug issue in the past or no?
No.
Wow. So you live in a small town. You're outside of, like, what, about an hour from Kansas City or 2 hours?
Roughly about an hour, hour and a
Okay.
half.
Okay. How are you? How's the family doing? Because this was totally unexpected and shocking. How's everyone? I can't imagine how they're doing. It's just a shock still, probably.
They're holding up pretty good. I think the worst part of it is at the funeral when you see a 13-year-old boy carrying his daddy's coffin to the grave.
Uh,
That little boy lost, I think, that day being a little boy.
yeah, their lives will never be the same.
And
And
that little boy is acting like a man.
well, I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but hopefully God is looking over him and Adam is in a better place right now.
We hope so.
Wow. And the thing is, this unfortunately is not unusual. This is happening every day. I'm going to bring up on the screen in 1999, on the left of the screen is 1999. These are overdose deaths, not just fentanyl, but as you go on to the years, 2021 was the last numbers that they kept. 107,000 people in the United States died from drug overdoses. And in 2021, 2022, 2023, the majority of those were fentanyl. This is a major crisis. This is a huge, that is like how many ever 9/11s put together. This is a big deal.
It is. And I don't think enough people's taking a stance or standing up. We've got to stand up better than this.
So you've done a little reading and research, and you said you observe a lot. You observe a lot in your small community. Where do you believe, and you're allowed to have an opinion, where is the fentanyl coming from?
My personal opinion is the start of the fentanyl's coming over the border.
Yeah, and there's evidence, there's proof of that.
Yeah, and then I think once it hits the borders, it's distributed maybe to the larger cities.
Yeah.
Then I think you have your smaller people that go to the larger cities or have it delivered to the smaller communities.
And now they're mixing it in without people knowing. So you don't know, you don't know what you're getting. So it can literally, I've heard stories of kids, teenagers, buying what they think is Percocet or something on Snapchat or over the internet. They get it and it's laced with fentanyl and they die.
Exactly.
It's happening all the time. So you hear people talking about it, but you don't think enough's being done about it?
I really don't. I think a lot of it's being swept under the rug like it doesn't matter. And I've sat here and watched, it's like, do these people not even realize what it's doing to these families? Do they not understand what it was like to see this mama cry because her son is dead? Or these 3 little grandchildren like I have that has to go on through life without a daddy? This is just ridiculous. It seems to me like I hear in the media, we're working this money to over here. We're working this money over there. We have issues here in America that need dealt with.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying the southern border is one of them. They do catch a lot of drugs coming in, but imagine how much they don't catch. That's the thing.
Exactly. And as many as that's flowing through the border because there's no control.
Someone watching from Branson, Missouri says, so sorry for your loss. She lost a child and understand where this is coming from. And another woman says, Andrea, but why are people taking it if they're knowing this? Well, that's the thing. they're not knowing that it's fentanyl, right?
Well, exactly. They don't know it's fentanyl. And a lot of things also too is when you hit an emergency room, for some reason now they look at everybody who's needing a stronger medication as a drug addict, as fishing for drugs. We're not going to give out a higher medication because no, we're just labeling people as drug addicts.
Exactly what you're saying. I did a story on this several weeks ago. Because of all of this, you are absolutely correct. The doctors, and I think it comes from the FDA or the DEA, they have pulled back giving all those hard meds, and people need them. There's legal fentanyl, that medicine that's used, and they're not giving it out. Yeah, and there are people, elderly, they're struggling now. They need it, and it can be managed, so that the government's gone the other way. So your point is people are going to go where it takes to get the relief, and by doing that,
Yes.
it's killing them.
Absolutely. And if you can't rely on your emergency rooms and your doctors to fulfill what that patient needs, they're gonna go elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's what someone just said in the comments. The opioids companies, they were sued, but now the government's going hardcore. They won't give even people who need the drug, the real drugs, like Adam, is it? So they literally just gave him like Tylenol, or even nothing more. Well, that's amazing.
That's what they did for him.
Wow. Wow. So we're just two average people here, but it seems like what can be done. It seems like a lot of people are blaming. Well, heck, just 2 days ago, they impeached the guy who's in charge of the border for not doing his job. And when they impeached him, they read some charges and they said the deaths of all these people. You agree with that they need to be held accountable?
I absolutely do. And not just the people that may be bringing it into the United States. I think the ones who distributed the drug to that person should have murder charges. Whether they knew that pill contained fentanyl or not, they should be charged.
Yeah, I mean, if you're dealing with that, you should know what's going on. And like I showed that map on the screen, I mean, this isn't just a couple hundred people a year. We're dealing with more than 100,000 people dying from drug overdose, and most of them fentanyl. I mean, that is, you should be hearing a lot more about this in the media than you are. I mean, you hear about, I always, I don't know, I try to watch all the stations, but they upset me. CNN, MSNBC, you'll hear them talk about Trump and 90% of the time, but there's stuff like these stories about this they're not even dealing with. I mean, that's what the news should be focusing on, right? How to fix this problem.
Exactly.
Do you have any solutions at all? Or does it come down to, even Democrats and Republicans, especially in Texas and Arizona, have said, you need to shut the damn border. Is that, you agree with them?
I do agree. And I think both sides actually need to work together. We need to close the border for starters. Once the border's closed and we can monitor what's going on at the borders regarding these drugs, then we can start targeting inside of the United States. Targeting what's here in. But we have to block off the borders before that can really be done.
So block off the borders and then deal with the amount of drugs and the trafficking that's going on in the country.
In the country itself, absolutely. But if the borders are going to remain open, we're just going in nowhere, a repeat cycle, because we're not dealing with it where it's originally coming from. You take down a dealer or something right now, there's just going to be more flowing through the border.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wow. And it's going to have to be, I mean, people, when they go to vote, they're going to have to maybe think of these things when they go to vote, because I know your family, I don't know how you voted or if you voted before, but I have a feeling all of your family members may vote because because of this? I mean, you're going to be involved, I have a feeling.
Oh, I'm very involved in voting.
Wow. So February 4th is actually the day he passed away. He died
But February 5th,
February 5th.
February 5th. He was born January 26th and passed February 5th.
When you got the first call or whatever, were you just utterly just shocked? Like, what?
Well, my daughter, what had happened, my daughter was at work and she called me up and she was so distraught. I couldn't even understand her. And so I finally got pieced together that she had told me that Adam was dead.
That's
and to go find her son. She was worried about her son because she knew her son was supposed to be with Dad that morning to have breakfast.
Oh, jeez.
And before I could get to my grandson, he had already made his way over to where Dad was.
So he knew at that point.
He had to be told by the other grandparents. He did not want to leave that house because he knew his dad was in there. He stayed in there through the whole thing with the coroner and the sheriff's department until they took Dad away.
Someone just asked a question, and this is, do they know where he got it? But that's, I mean, it's impossible probably to track down the source. I mean, right?
We do have speculations on the source.
Okay.
Speculations.
But, yeah.
Not.
Yeah, and for the police to actually, there's so much of it going on, and for them to track it down, like you said, close the border, then start dealing with every city, every state, put all the money that's maybe going elsewhere internally in the country and just fight it.
Exactly.
Wow, someone just watching online right now, they lost their child of a heart attack. It's so much death going on. One thing I just thought of, if someone is a drug addict, I'll admit I had a brother that was a drug addict back in the day. He passed away. But I could see how if you are a drug addict and you don't want to have fentanyl, so many people are dying because a lot of people ask, oh, can't you just stop? Well, being an addict, whether it's, gambling or alcohol, whatever, it's not easy. But now they're mixing in this and they're literally killing people like immediately. It's just frightening because an addict, it's hard to stop. But this is killing them.
Even addicts don't deserve to die this way.
No, and it's not. I think a lot of people have a stereotype. They think of an addict. They think of some, scruffy looking guy who's homeless. There are very rich people. There's poor people. Anyone is an addict. A lot of people hide behind closed doors. My dad always told me, you never know what's going on behind closed doors, and you should never judge anyone. Yeah, so they're taking advantage of the whole country, really.
They are, I believe. And to me, it's just like, and I just sat here and watched it and just like, I'm like, nobody really cares.
No, and you hear a lot.
Does anybody really care?
It shouldn't have to take, like the city of, for example, the city of Chicago now is being overrun with all these illegal migrants, and now the people are pissed off. And I hope it's not going to take every other family to lose a loved one to fentanyl before people realize this is an issue, because it's an issue. I mean, we've lost probably a couple 100,000 people in 2 years. Yeah. Yeah, it's just that any messages to, I think you already said what you would do to fix the problem, but you're probably not too optimistic that that's going to happen because a lot of people don't trust the government.
It is hard to trust government.
Hopefully,
it really is.
Hopefully someone will do the right right thing. And
But yet, I'm having faith that something will eventually be done. I feel if more victims of people that were lost, more families of the lost due to fentanyl stood up, voiced whatever it takes to
yeah,
let people understand the realities. Because it's just not, oh, someone died of fentanyl on the news and whoop, that's all you hear about it.
you don't
No,
even hear it.
these are families being torn to pieces.
And you don't hear about it on the news. When I was working in the newsroom, I would hear it on the police scanner at least 3 times every night. Overdose, overdose, overdose. They were never covered on the news. And every once in a while, maybe you would mention it. If it's a celebrity, you would hear about it. But you don't hear about the thousands of people every day, probably that are dying from it. And that's where I also blame the media. They obsess about Trump and Biden and all this crap, but there's so many other stories that they ignore.
Absolutely.
So, last thing, if anyone's watching right now and they have a loved one that may have a drug problem or that may be in his situation that can't get drugs from a hospital, we need to talk to them and realize that if you do go outside to try to get anything, people need to know there is a chance it could be laced, right, with fentanyl.
Yes, it's very real. I mean, even I never thought 1 ounce in my head that this would affect my family. It didn't even cross my mind. But people need to have it on their minds
Because
because it very well could be your child, your brother, your mother, your father, whoever.
it could, yeah, just for example, yeah, at Christmas time, you had probably if you gathered as a family, you had no idea that this would happen. You thought he would be living a long, long life, and then boom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I
Okay.
say, people just need to be aware. People need to keep it on the front of their mind. We need to do something about it.
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on, and you're brave to do this because some people might, I don't know, criticize you, but there's a bunch of idiots out there, so forget them.
Oh, I'm not even worried about it.
So I thank you for talking, and I'm going to highlight this more and more. I have a lot of followers on social media. People are not watching the news as much as they used to because they don't trust it. So hopefully people will start listening to people like you and then me and realize what the real stuff is. And this is real life right here. This is not a game.
No, it's not.
Okay,
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to let you go. Prayers to your family, and I'll send you a link later tonight of all of this, and I appreciate it.